Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 3, Episode 1. It's called Evolution. So full spoilers for the episode as always. It feels exciting saying Season 3. You know, it's always nice to get to that new number, and because I'm going to be saying it for a while. You know, it's new and fresh right now. I mean, I'll be bored of it in about 6 episodes time, but I've been saying Season 2 for a while.
You get about half a year out of it.
Yeah, so... yeah, it's exactly half a year actually, because it's 26 episodes, I think. We're back to the full amount. So, yeah, first episode of season 3. Interesting premise. Roller coaster ride of quality, I guess. Because there was parts of this episode where I'm like, oh, I really like this idea, and then I went to, oh, this is kind of fun in a bad way, and then I went to, this is just kind of bad in a bad way, and then I went to being kind of fun again, and I didn't know what to make of it.
I would say there is about 8 to 10 minutes of good content.
Right.
And then a lot of mediocrity.
I don't know if I'd say a lot of mediocrity. I feel like there's about 8 to 10 minutes of good content. There's about another 10 minutes of, this is kind of amazingly hilarious, right? I mean, at least for me. There was a moment...
Yeah, I don't think I ever got there.
No. There was a moment early on where... Crusher, because Crusher's back, right? She's back as the ship's doctor. And she comes to Picard to talk about her concerns for her young Wesley, who's now 17 years old, and he's a weird kid. He has no friends. She's asking Picard, what's he like? And he's like, oh well, he's a proper student. He's doing well. He's working hard. And like, no. What's he like? Does he have friends? Has he ever been in love? And all I could say was, Mama Crusher, when it comes to the ladies. Wesley's in complete control. That's all I could think about during that scene. And she's all worried about him, and it was really making me laugh. And then she's concerned that he's not, rebelling and getting into trouble, because Picard admits that he was getting into a lot of trouble when he was 17. She was too, and it's like, oh, it's kind of weird that he's not, right? And later on in the episode, when you realise that the thing that's going on, the reason why the computer on the ship is basically like breaking down and doing weird erratic things as if it's like, I don't know, seen its own despair and is now terrified of the thought of existence. It's existential crisis, I don't know what you want to call it. And you find out that Wesley essentially modified some nanites that kind of started breeding is not the right word, but multiplying, and fled into the ship because he left the container open by accident, and they've taken over the ship. And not all of that, later on in the episode, they become so sentient and are growing at such a rate and become self-aware that they have to give them a planet at the end of the episode, because now they're a life form, and if they have the choice, they can't kill it because it's a life form now that is learning and growing and adapting. Wesley Crusher, this is his 17-year-old mistake. This is his rebellious act. This is his, I done a doofus. I done goofed.
The chump can't even manage an all-nighter. What sort of 17-year-old student can't do an all-nighter for their final project?
Well, there's a moment where he's kind of saying again, I might have done this, and I did laugh actually, because he says, so first of all, credit to the writers, because he says the word gigabytes at one point, and I thought, oh, you know what, for 1988 or whatever year this episode aired, maybe 1990, yeah, something like that, 89, 90, like that's actually okay. You know what? That you used a real word that is a computery word that I'm sure at the time, most people would never have been able to do that. Because when I hear people, because just 2 days ago, me and Tim on Streams After Midnight were reviewing Jason X, which came out in 2001, might I add, fair bit after this, right? 2001, and at one point the android chick gets an upgrade, right? You'd call it an upgrade, where she's got more, combat skills, martial arts. She comes. Why she's dressed like she's out of the Matrix now? I mean, that's just taste of the era, whatever.
But early 2000s is the answer to that.
But the nerdy guy who sort of gave her the upgrade doesn't say I gave her an upgrade. He says I gave her an upload, and it's like, what? This dialogue is stupid, right? So I'll give the credit. That said, though, I did kind of chuckle, because to myself I thought, well, we're already kind of past gigabytes now to terabytes in terms of like talking about large amounts of storage. So I thought this is like 500 years in the future, and they're still on gigabytes.
To be fair, though, It's like gigabytes on such a tiny scale.
True, yeah, they're on nanites, which admittedly is tiny, with little robot things.
The way you were putting on a voice made it sound like you were doing like a bit from a movie.
Look.
At first, I thought, are you describing a leprechaun?
No, I would not make a leprechaun reference. How dare you?
I don't know. You just spent like 30 seconds talking about Jason X.
Jason X is a good movie, though. I'm sorry. Right. Did you not like the scene with nanites, by the way? There's nanites in that movie. The nanites reform Jason's corpse into Uber Jason. Of course you do.
How is that better than Leprechaun?
It's so much better than Leprechaun. I don't
know how I got through that with a straight face. Tim might kill me, though, if he hears that.
But anyway, so Wesley's behind it all, right? He's like Palpatine. He's behind it all.
Sure.
Come on, if this isn't future little incel emperor in the making, I don't know what is.
I'm not sure I can argue with that.
But yeah, so we've got some things to talk about all in the plot and like sort of how they tackle that. We have the new uniforms, which obviously have the same sort of design stylistically, but they're not a one piece anymore. At the request of Patrick Stewart himself, they asked him what he wanted at the end of season 2, and he said, "I want new uniforms." Although notably, and I remember reading this last year, he still sort of does the Picard maneuver where he pulls it down. Because he'd gotten used to doing it and it was like part of the character now, so he just kept doing it. But the reason why he did that originally is because it was riding up when he was pulling it. So we got that. They do look better. No, they absolutely do look better. They look more comfortable as actors, you know.
I mean, that helps. They just look more professional, though, don't they?
A little more professional, you know. You don't feel like all the men are kind of uncomfortable because I can just imagine it sort of pulling everything up like the entire time, uncomfortably. So everyone just looks more comfortable. So that's good. Crusher's back, as we said. Not much of an explanation. They do refer to the fact that she's been gone for a year. They don't really talk about why. They just, you know, there's a little bit of angst between her and Wesley because Wesley's like, you haven't even been here. There's a little bit of that
stuff.
But, you know, they didn't know she was gone, which also apparently was at the request of Patrick Stewart. The current Wikipedia page that I glanced at. That she was
gone or that she's back?
That she's back. He requested that she come back. He said, fire that other one and bring her back.
In that exact phrasing, I'm sure.
Well, Wikipedia did say that he said fire whatever her name is and hire back her. Although apparently one of the producers always wanted to bring her back. It wasn't a permanent thing. It was one person on the team who didn't want her, and that was why she was gone. And then they left. And
yeah, that sounds totally plausible.
Yeah. So then she's back.
It wasn't us. It was that guy who left. He didn't want you there, and he somehow outvoted all of us.
If he's high up enough, if he's like one of the head producers.
I mean, sure, but
do you honestly think this doesn't sound plausible?
I mean, it just sounds a bit like an excuse that they've given after. It's like, hey, no, it was all that guy who left, and you know, we all love you, we want you back, but there's just nothing we could ever do about it. I don't know. It just sounds like a perfect excuse. Even if it is true, it sounds like it could be a perfect excuse. The fact that just blame the guy who's no longer there.
No, the fact that they actually followed up on it makes me think it is probably just accurate because they immediately brought her back. Immediately.
It depends how insistent Patrick Stewart was.
I mean, I'm sure that helped, but like, I don't know. I feel like you're being extra cynical here for like no reason. There's nothing to prompt this cynicism in this case. I'm actually sorry I brought it up because I had to listen to you ramble on for 10 seconds about your insane negativity, right?
10 whole seconds. That's like less than a fifth the time you spent this episode talking about Jason X, so shut up.
Jason X was time well spent. Thank you very much. So we got her back. She's back. She fits in as if she was never gone. Aside from the fact that they mentioned she was gone for a while. No mention as to where the other one went though.
No, nothing. I mean, I guess you just don't need her if you've got if your other chief officer comes back. It's like, well, you can go then.
Yeah. They also have a little bit of sort of mention that Wesley might even feel a little bit of angst with her being, you know, every other sort of student who's out here studying on the Enterprise doesn't have to, you know, have their mother around. So they sort of at least briefly float the idea that that's maybe a stress. I didn't hate the scene at the end either.
Really?
I didn't hate it. It was fine. I mean, I didn't love it either. It was, I thought it was interesting that we actually cut to a subplot to end the episode rather than, because usually it's, the main thing's done. There'll be a nice moment with Picard or Riker or whoever on the bridge.
Sure.
But this was like, no, it cut to like essentially the B plot, which is the Crushers.
I get why you would like it in terms of the writing structure. We'll wrap this up as the ending, and it feels neat and narrative. I get that.
Yeah, they went with the little joke moment instead of. I mean, there's often a little joke moment, but they went with a little joke moment that was separate from the main plot.
Yeah. I just didn't enjoy the scene itself, even though I agree with you structurally that I think it's a smart choice to kind of switch up your plots and use that as your ending.
Yeah, because she's watching Wesley with friends and a girl, and she's all happy that he seems to be happy with someone, and she's attractive, and then she immediately pauses and goes, "Actually, what do you know about her, Guinan? let's look her up." Classic, parent kid humor. So again, the main plot of the episode though is that there's this. I mean, other than the fact that the narrator's going nuts, that's kind of what interrupts the main plot. But the planned main plot is that this doctor dude is out here to set out his big egg, which is not a literal egg; it's a mechanical device. But yeah, because there's this sun that explodes on the surface every 200 years. I think it was every 196 years exactly. Like clockwork, and because they've got a chance to kind of examine this, he's been working his whole life towards this, and obviously because he's done since he was studying this, as a young man, probably that this is exactly when it's all building up to. He's got the deadline. He knows when it's happening. And he's determined to have this all go, but of course the computer starts malfunctioning. We have a Borg scare at one point where Worf's like, "Oh, there's a Borg ship," Yeah,
that would have livened this episode up for sure.
And they all brace themselves, and they're all like, oh shit, and it's like, oh wait, it's disappeared, and it's like, oh, it's the computer, because the first thing that happened, one of the first things that happens anyway, is just like, oh, the food thingamajig is just replicator, replicator, it's a goddamn replicator.
Are you sure?
Yep, or synthesizer, either one will do. But replicator or molecular synthesizer is a device that uses matter, energy, and conversion technology similar to a transporter to produce almost anything from a ship's replicator reserves. And there's photos of it.
This does not sound familiar at all.
No, replicator. I've said this.
Well, my brain has clearly not absorbed that word.
I'm on memory alpha.
I'm not questioning the legitimacy of your information. I'm questioning my own brain.
Bloody hell. Yeah, so this glitching, it's doing various things. Eventually, the Doctor Man's not very happy that they're considering leaving, because they think it's maybe something to do with the vicinity of the star that's causing the problems. And he's very upset about this. He's determined to have them stay. When they find out what's really going on, because Wesley has to sort of own up to it and go and tell them all. If I was a little disappointed that Picard didn't seem more pissed at Wesley for crippling the ship. I mean, he literally cripples the ship. Like everything is malfunctioning.
Yeah.
The health, the health systems, the shields,
It starts poisoning them at one point.
Well, no. Well, okay, yes, but that's not one of the random things. That's
a reaction later. But the point is, it's still caused from his negligence of leaving a container open.
He created a new life form. This is what I said at the start. Listen to the sentence this episode essentially gives us. Wesley Crusher is a god and creates a new life form.
Well, isn't being a god how you prove that he's a wonderkind?
How am I supposed to address that? What?
Continue. The whole big conversation in this between him and the Doctor is that you're a wonderkind just like I was, and you've got to live up to that potential. So he decided to be a god.
They've told us this before. This was
way back.
I know, but it was my season 1. We had the whole alien dude who was like, oh, he's special and he sees things differently than everyone else, and.
No, I get that. That's why this was here, right? It was reminding you, hey, remember this, just so that, hey, look, say God, potential fulfilled.
Well, you're saying this episode is just to fulfill that prophecy from season 1, so they've done it and they can tick it off and never mention it again?
No, it's not fulfilling that prophecy, but in the sense that he is already, living up to his potential, even if he hasn't done, what if there is some specific thing that he does, rather than just, be generally great.
Anyway,
it's another example of it.
the point I was getting at, though, is I was surprised there was not more of a reaction from Picard and Riker that Wesley, did something this severe. Even if it was accidental. I mean, I expected them to be, okay, be fine with him after a bit, but I was expecting some stern looks and talk, the tone of voice to be a bit harsh for at least a scene, whilst Picard's, processing the fact that Wesley's nearly killed them all. That might have been something that I was expecting, and maybe he's just used to Wesley now. I don't know, but I was missing that beat for me.
I feel like he'd be pretty annoyed at any officer who'd caused this.
Yeah, but
quite fairly.
Yeah, but he also hates kids, so this is like a double whammy.
I wonder if it's 17's getting to the point now where he's not kiddish enough to be annoying to Picard.
Don't know, but yeah. So the Doctor dude ends up shooting because they're like, no. If they're smart enough to learn and expand, then we can't just kill them. And the Doctor dude kind of tries to blast a phaser at the engine, down the engine room, against everyone's sort of wishes, and they have to sort of confine them to quarters. Where we actually get a really hilarious scene where the nanites try to electrocute him, and we get this, the electric effect, the lightning effect coming from the console device, and
it's a classic.
He's got the blue lightning all over him, and it's pretty silly. But this is what I'm talking about, where it was kind of verging. There was scenes where they'll talk about Wesley at the start between Picard and Crusher that I thought was funny. His attempted murder was really funny. But then there's other scenes where the Doctor's just complaining and talking to Wesley about being a wunderkind and wanting to do his life's work that I just thought were kind of dull, and those weren't really doing anything for me.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I thought the execution was maybe a little bit funny. The stuff about with between Crusher and Picard about Wesley, yeah, I didn't find that amusing either. That was just kind of dull and tedious is probably the word I'd use to describe it.
I know, maybe it's not funny on its own, but given the conversation and the thought process of our discussions since throughout the whole show, that scene was hilarious to me. I was having a ball during that scene.
I get where you're coming from, but for me, it just didn't get there.
Also, we should mention actually the start of the title sequence is a little bit different. They've got some new planety effects at the start of it.
Yeah, it was, and I maybe I've just kind of gotten used to not noticing it, and I'm just looking for new things because it's a new season. Mm-hmm. Does it always come up with the episode title at the end of the credits?
Start of the credits after the open. So at the start, so you always get the credits after the opening title sequence. I feel like it's usually at the start of that rather than at the end of the actual intro. But
yeah, maybe.
I mean, either way, yeah, it's usually there. I remember seeing it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It was just one of those things that I'm like, I don't remember seeing that in a while. And again, it's just one of those things that I think you just stop noticing, and then because you kind of tune out during the opening.
It's something that most TV shows did up until the mid-90s. It was a really common thing, and then for some reason they stopped putting the titles at the start. I don't know why, but
maybe it was the expansion of the TV guide was a bit more common, and we started getting it digitized. That they just thought, we don't need it as much. People can see the episode if they want to.
But that logic, why even have the title of the show in the start?
Well, a lot of shows dropped that as well, didn't they?
Well, no, even if they drop the whole title sequence, they still have usually a 5-second thing with just the title of the show.
Well, that's true, yeah.
The title of the show is still, it's the one thing that's stuck, even today.
It is. I mean, honestly, it is kind of irrelevant in the sense of giving you the information. That's more just... when you watch a movie, it often will still have a title card.
Very, very few actually tell you the episode titles on screen. I mean, Stranger Things is one of the few that I can think of right now that does it. There is. I'm sure there's another one that I can't think of that's done it recently. Like there was
something we spoke about recently that did.
Yeah, but it's not common. I mean, they're the exceptions. Everything else doesn't do it. But yeah, it's done that the whole show. I mean, that's not anything. Maybe they've moved it slightly in terms of where it shows up, but it's always been there.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just you stop paying attention to the opening titles because they're opening titles, right? They're the same. But start of a new season, you're looking to see, has anything changed? And obviously, it caught my eye this time when it hasn't done for a while.
It's funny because I remembered this episode was going to be Wesley focused, and in the first like 10, 15 minutes, I was like, yeah, obviously there's a little bit of Wesley stuff here because he's, his mum's like thinking he's being weird, but it's really just a subplot. He's not actually that much of a focus. And then there's the scene where he's like laying traps in the bar, and Guinan's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh well,"
and you're like,
he's like, "Oh well, I was doing this thing with nanites," and I'm like, "Where's this going?"
"Oh no!"
And then he's like, "Oh wait, has nanites escaped?" I was like, "Oh, Wesley's behind all of this. This is all on Wesley." Okay, so it is going to be super Wesley focused, which isn't necessarily a death sentence for the show. I mean, honestly, I don't think this episode's that bad. I think this episode's kind of in the sort of middling territory. I don't think it's down there with the worst.
It's not terrible, but it's really dull for the most part. I really like the last 5 minutes or so of the main plot when when it gets to the point where the nanites can actually communicate and they kind of take over Data with his permission.
Yeah, Data, they have like a voice effect or someone else doing the voice as he's talking, for them, they're talking through him, and they just kind of accept that, yeah, okay, we'll stop fighting, yeah, peace, why not? After the Doctor did apologise for, killing a bunch of them, and then say, hey, we need a bigger home, this ship's not big enough anymore, we need to expand. So, yeah, they give them the planet. And what I did notice, to explain the ending of this, there was a really big captain's log at the end, and obviously we've always had the captain's log from Picard. This is definitely the biggest one we've ever had at the end of an episode, where I felt like it was like, we want to explain all of the outcome here, and explain, okay, this is what the solution was, this is what we're doing now. And I felt like it was like a montage playing as he was, saying all this, and it felt different to what we've had before. It felt like they wanted to just have like a wrap-up monologue to explain how it all ended.
It is. I am going to critique it a little bit in the sense that it feels like they knew that it wasn't quite finished as an episode, because that last 5 minutes that I'm talking about is really good. I like what it does, but it needed to be fleshed out. We needed more time dealing with this a little bit after. That needed to be maybe 10 minutes earlier in the episode, so we could have had some more stuff. And I felt like maybe they were aware of that we spent a lot of time on subplots and other stuff, so here's the actual resolution. We're going to tell you what happened, but we're not actually going to deal with any of it.
Yeah, well, one of the other things actually that I thought they could have focused on is when they're debating what they should do once they realise what it is, and they're in the ready room talking about it, and the Doctor is like, oh, this is just like any virus. At least that's life form. This isn't life. And I thought it was interesting that at no point anyone sort of brought up Data as an example of artificial life.
Right there.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, it felt like because it felt like the conversation was kind of an extension of Measure of a Man to an extent, but they never really kind of looked at it that way or addressed it or in any way like included Data's existence in the conversation. I mean, obviously he's there and he's helping like solve it, so he's not being ignored, but they never like even if Data himself or if Picard on Data's behalf said, no, but hey, we have Data, would you kill him? Like, like that could have been an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah, it wouldn't have taken much. And it was really noticeable immediately. The Doctor's like, they're mechanical, they can't be alive. And I'm like, didn't we do this already? Someone goes, hey, Data's here.
Yeah, well, no, my complaint's not that we've done it already. My complaint is that it should just be brought up in relevance to this. Not. I mean, we're going to explore as an android or machine, like a living being. I'm sure we're going to explore that multiple times.
When I say we've done this already, I mean in the sense of just brushing it over and like, okay, sure, yeah, whatever. What I mean is if we're gonna bring it up, actually, reference that we've had this conversation. Go, hey, Data's alive. Kind of reference it in that context
to kind of link up to this as well. If like the idea that a life form is kind of growing, this artificial life form is growing inside the ship, from complete sort of gestation to this intelligent collective, which I thought was interesting, the word collective there. I mean, like, also something they could have theorized in conversations, like, hey, could this be some sort of new Borg? Like, maybe we should be terrified of this thing because of the way it shares a consciousness. It's not just because the way they describe it, it's not like individual, thinking like life forms. It's one collective sentient force. So that'd be an interesting conversation to throw in there. And again, not for the sake of actually saying that's what it definitely is, but just for this, Star Trek's about debating ideas and like throwing all these different things into the mix. That's something else they could have brought up. But it also just kind of feels like it underplays the idea that this life form exists. Like, obviously at the end, like, okay, we have to give it a home and we can't kill it. I felt like the idea that we're talking to a completely new life form almost felt kind of like it wasn't that big of a deal at the end. It really should have done.
They were hinting at it when they're talking. We just wanted to explore, and Picard's like, "Hey, we get that. We're explorers too. We understand that desire, that need."
Yeah, that was a good line. That was a good line.
There are moments where it's so close to kind of really getting into it, which is why I think that that 5 minutes is the best of the episode by far. But it just needs a little bit more over the edge to really dive into that territory. Another 10 minutes after that, dealing with this stuff, I think this could have been some great stuff.
Well, part of me wasn't even convinced that we're going to immediately accept the apology and go for peace. Like, I thought, oh, maybe they'll actually try and take over the show. I didn't realize how much time I had left in the episode. I wasn't, but like, they just kind of accept it, and that's fine. I'm not necessarily against that, but it does feel like more of the idea and more of the plot could have been mined here at the end. And this is something that happened a few times in season 2, where there was like a really interesting premise, but it was it focused on the wrong things, and it focused on other stuff that wasn't as interesting. But the good thing about Star Trek is that I am fully confident that the ideas that we're interested in this will be explored better later, because they tend to come back to the same things and try and give them another go. And most of them usually have a good version. The one thing the original series never quite nailed, though, was the finding a primitive culture and integrating with them, and something that Next Gen's also tried once or twice and failed miserably at.
Speaking of original series, was that a reference to one of those episodes? I'm not sure the exact one, but they talk about there hasn't been a starship with a complete systems failure in like 70 odd years or whatever it was. And was that supposed to be a reference to a specific?
Oh, that may have been.
Episode? I couldn't think of which one.
The timeline's right. It was about 70 years. Yeah, I mean, technically, I'm sure there was a couple of times that happened in the original series, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't think of a specific example, but I'm like, yeah, we definitely saw that.
It's one of these things where they'll tell us it never happens, but because we need plots for episodes, it happens all the time in the actual shows we do watch. And by all the time, I just mean more than once. So far more than... They're saying it's this rare thing that only happens once every 70 years. But we'll get maybe 3 plots over the seasons that do it. And it's like, well, it's not that rare, is it, guys? Come on. But anyway, that was the first episode, called Evolution. Let's have a look and see what's coming next time. Episode 2, it's called The Ensigns of Command. Okay. After 111 years of silence, an extremely litigious alien race asserts its agreed upon right to wipe out a Federation colony in its territory. So this is like a political dispute episode.
Could be interesting.
Yeah, the average rate's not bad. That's why I was looking ahead at the rest of the season. We have like several 8 and ups this season.
Oh boy!
So looking forward to that. And one in particular that's 9 and up. So
was it like one of those famous ones that you recognize the name of?
Yeah, it was.
Or it's just a high name. Okay.
It was. So we'll look forward to that next time. Play a little bit better than this one if we're lucky. But that is
I really hope so.
That is episode 2 coming next time. So let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, everything we do here, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, and you can get some bonuses for your troubles and help you keep all the content coming. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again. Check out the new reviews of Picard, which me and Tara are doing on the weekly basis as they're coming out just now. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Star Trek, guys. And remember, when it comes to the ladies, Wesley Crusher is in complete control.